Cristiano Ronaldo conquered almost everything football had to offer. But one trophy always escaped him, the FIFA World Cup. So what stopped one of history's greatest players? The easy answer is that Portugal wasn't good enough. But the real answer is far more complicated. Every World Cup failed for a different reason. Sometimes it was stronger opponents, sometimes injuries, sometimes tactics, and sometimes simply bad timing. To understand the story, we first have to understand Portugal. Unlike Brazil, Germany, or Argentina, Portugal has never consistently produced generations of world-class talent. Then Ronaldo arrived and changed everything. Suddenly, a country that once dreamed of competing began dreaming of becoming world champions. But the World Cup is different from club football. You can't buy better teammates, you only have the players your country produces. That reality would define Ronaldo's entire World Cup career. His success would always depend on 11 players, not just one. And because the tournament comes only once every 4 years, every mistake carries enormous consequences. So instead of asking why Ronaldo never won the World Cup, let's investigate what stopped him each time. The first case takes us to Germany in 2006, the closest Portugal had come in decades, and perhaps the opportunity they would regret the most. At just 21 years old, Ronaldo entered his first World Cup. He was already a rising star, but not yet the player who would dominate world football. Portugal, however, had something they wouldn't always have in later years, a balanced squad full of experienced players. They won all 3 group matches and reached the semifinals after eliminating both the Netherlands and England. Suddenly, the World Cup didn't seem impossible anymore. But then they met France, a team packed with experience and led by one of the greatest generations in their history. The semifinal was decided by a single penalty. Portugal lost 1-0, despite creating several dangerous chances. Looking back, this was probably Portugal's best chance. The squad was strong, and the path to the trophy was within reach. But Ronaldo was still developing. He hadn't yet become the unstoppable goalscorer the world would soon witness. That's the first piece of the puzzle. Portugal peaked as a team before Ronaldo peaked as a player. By the time he became the world's best footballer, the team around him had already begun to change. The first opportunity was gone. The next World Cup would reveal a completely different problem. By 2010, Ronaldo had become one of the world's best players. But Portugal had quietly become a far more cautious team. They were difficult to beat, yet they struggled to create chances against top opponents. That would become their biggest weakness. The statistics revealed the problem. Portugal scored 7 goals in the group stage, but every one of them came in a single match against North Korea. Against Ivory Coast, Brazil, and later Spain, they managed just 1 goal combined. Their attack simply wasn't consistent enough. Then came Spain, the reigning European champions and soon-to-be world champions. Portugal spent most of the match defending. With little service and few attacking options around him, Ronaldo was largely isolated. Portugal struggled to threaten Spain's defense. A single goal from David Villa ended the match and Portugal's World Cup. Once again, the dream was over. This defeat wasn't about Ronaldo underperforming. It exposed a team that relied on defending, but lacked the creativity to beat elite opponents. For the first time, it became clear that even the world's best player couldn't compensate for an attack that created so little. 2 World Cups, 2 different lessons. In 2006, Ronaldo wasn't ready. In 2010, Portugal wasn't. Brazil 2014 should have been Ronaldo's tournament. He arrived as the reigning Ballon d'Or winner, but there was one major problem. He wasn't fully fit. He had been managing a knee injury for months. Even before the first match, Portugal's biggest weapon wasn't at 100%. Then came the worst possible start. Portugal opened against Germany and suffered a crushing 4-0 defeat. The score wasn't the only disaster. A red card left Portugal with 10 men and injuries to key players, weakened an already struggling squad. From that moment, Portugal were chasing the tournament instead of controlling it. Every remaining match became a must-win. A dramatic late equalizer against the United States kept their hopes alive, but the heavy defeat to Germany had already done enormous damage. Portugal beat Ghana in their final group game, yet it wasn't enough. They finished level on points with the United States, but went out on goal difference. This wasn't a tactical failure like 2010. It was a campaign ruined by injuries, suspensions, and one disastrous opening match. For many fans, this remains Ronaldo's unluckiest World Cup. Before Portugal could find their rhythm, The tournament was already slipping away. 3 World Cups were gone and each had failed for a different reason. But the next tournament would reveal Portugal's biggest weakness yet. They had become too dependent on Ronaldo. Russia 2018 began brilliantly. Ronaldo's unforgettable hat-trick against Spain reminded the world he could still decide the biggest matches. But Portugal depended too heavily on him. Against Uruguay, Ronaldo was contained, and the team lacked another player to change the game. Portugal lost 2-1, proving once again that one superstar alone couldn't win a World Cup. Qatar 2022 told a different story. Portugal finally had a world-class squad, but at 37, Ronaldo was no longer the team's undisputed leader. Against Morocco, Portugal created chances but couldn't score. Morocco stayed organized, punished one mistake, and ended another World Cup dream. Ronaldo came off the bench but couldn't change the result. Leaving the pitch in tears, it seemed his World Cup story had finally ended. Yet one final chapter remained. At 41, Ronaldo returned for the 2026 World Cup as Portugal's experienced leader, rather than its biggest star. Portugal reached the round of 16, but couldn't break down Spain's defense. A late goal ended Ronaldo's final World Cup campaign. Every World Cup ended differently. Youth in 2006, tactics in 2010, injuries in 2014, dependence in 2018, age in 2022, and Spain's superiority in 2026. That was the real curse. Ronaldo never had the perfect team at the perfect time. Yet his journey proved that greatness isn't measured by one trophy alone. His World Cup dream may have ended, but his legacy will inspire football fans for generations. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know which football legend or historic moment we should explore next.